After World War II, many Japanese Americans were seen as enemies of the state. So Executive Order 9066 was a response to the attack on Pearl Harbor. This order authorized the forced relocation and internment of over 120,000 Japanese Americans. However, it was not an easy process moving that many groups of people from cities to internment camps. So what they did instead was they created these things called assembly centers. Now there's several assembly centers throughout California. Some of these are in Merced, Tulare, and Stockton. But the one that we will be talking about today is in Fresno, California. Today we're at the Fresno Fairgrounds, the place where 5,000 Japanese Americans were held on their way to an internment camp. Today we're going to be looking at the actual plaques that were left over in memory of these people, and we're going to see if we can find the horse stables.
As you can see here, you can see the westernized names of the Japanese people detained here, which signifies that even if a Japanese person was born in America, they too would be detained.
Branch Itanashi is someone that I got in contact through with my sister, as he is a fourth generation Japanese American. His father and his father's father were both actually in the Fresno Assembly Center, and he has many stories and a lot of insight into what actually happened during those times.
Especially in the Central Valley. Most of the Japanese of that generation didn't talk much about this, and that's why people don't know about it.
Can you share some of the experiences that your family might have gone through during that time in Fresno?
They were initially interned in Fresno at the fairgrounds, but everybody from around the Central Valley area basically ended up at the Fresno fairgrounds.
And then kind of piggybacking off that question, obviously you haven't, experienced that firsthand, but how has the internment impacted you, and your loved ones now today?
Let's just say, well, I don't know if it was necessarily the internment or also just the Japanese state of mind for that particular generation. My family's been here quite a bit longer than most of the other Japanese. Most of the other Japanese that were interned were first generation. My grandparents were second generation. My great-grandfather was the second Japanese man in the Central Valley.
Oh, wow.
Sent over to learn industrial farming to take back to Japan. Because they knew how to farm, they just didn't know how to farm with tractors and that sort of thing. And you were having the Industrial Revolution here, so they sent people out to learn that kind of thing. Like I was telling you, a lot of the older generation that actually experienced a lot of this don't talk about it quite a bit. There is a old Japanese saying, I don't know if any of you have heard this in researching this. It's called, "The nail that sticks out gets hammered down." That's why you see very few people talking about this.
During our interview, Brent had mentioned that his family's names were actually listed on this plaque, and we can see them right here.
Most of the people that ended up going to the camps, when they came back, there was nothing here. Most of the properties and everything got confiscated. For my family, it was a little bit different, as they were farmers. The farmers, because the Japanese actually couldn't own land back then, always had to find someone in order to put together a trust. And my family was lucky enough that the people that owned the trust with them kept their end of the bargain, and they still had a home and a ranch when they got out. So a lot of the people, when they got back from the camps, they would end up living in either hostels or the Buddhist temples.
Today we're at the Shinjin Friendship Garden at Woodward Park in Fresno, California. This park was built in commemoration of the friendship between the Japanese and the Americans following the events of World War II. Everyone had different stories of their experiences about Assembly Center life. One of the internees, Dr. Kikura Tyro, had a story displayed on one of the plaques that explained the whole block had an outbreak of food poisoning. There were probably 200 or 300 people in the whole block, so a lot of them got sick. At the assembly centers, internees were assigned as the cook, so it wasn't really the administration's fault, it was the lack of experience, which resulted in insufficient refrigeration and leaving food out in hot temperatures, especially here in Fresno, where it gets really hot during the summer months.
Because there was something like that in the 80s. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like everybody who was in the camp got so many $1,000s. I don't remember the amount, but it wasn't gigantic. It wasn't like, if you lost your ranch, you weren't replacing your ranch with that. You may have been able to maybe put a down payment on a house. I don't remember exactly what the amount was. Like I said, it was the 80s, and I was a small child and cared not. That was yesterday is basically what the thought process is. Because otherwise, you get kind of stuck in it. You don't want to live it forever. That's that Japanese thing. I like get one thing really straight, real quick. I have a Japanese ancestry, but I'm fourth generation, so I am a white dude with squinty eyes, basically, and I'm half white. So, I mean, I don't speak Japanese. When I was a kid, and I asked my dad, "Hey, can you teach me how to speak Japanese?" His answer was, "Who the fuck are you going to talk to?" And walked away. So, which is true. There are just not a lot of Japanese in the Central Valley. I don't know if it's necessarily taught so much as it's just kind of an example. Like I said, most of the older generation didn't talk about a lot of the intercamp experiences with the younger generations. I know what I know because I was around some of the older folks when I was really young. They didn't think I was there, grandkid that disappears into the background behind the couch or something. They start talking about some old stuff. And you kind of pick up stuff. But one of the things that was mentioned as far as that was like that period of time and the difference between the average American and the Japanese American experiences. And this coming from me, I'm half white. My grandparents always thought the Japanese were put into the internment camps for their own safety.
So at the internment camps, a lot of the internees actually played a lot of sports. They could play golf, people could lift weights, people could play basketball. They basically played a lot of sports to make life seem more normal. And at the Fresno Assembly Center, they actually did have a basketball and baseball team.
Shit got brutal. People were messing around and like, hurting people. Yeah. However, the Japanese side of my family, they go, if you put somebody in a camp and you're protecting them from outsiders, the guns point outward. And if you escaped, you got beat down or tried to get out. Or if you got caught doing something like pretending to be Chinese. If someone is out there trying to make somebody else seem like the bad guy, and instead of like just hating on a whole other group of people that you may not have interacted, be more suspicious of that one person or one group of person that's trying to demonize the other. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's kind of obvious, but I mean, obviously it's not. Look at the world right now.